The Alpha King believed she had died, until she returned, leading the pack that defeated his own. Kael Ashgrove stood at the edge of the pine forest, the same spot he visited every year, and looked at the smooth gray stone that marked a grave with nothing inside it. 3 years had passed since the night he gave the order to retreat, the night his pack pulled back from the northern border and left Ivy Marchetti behind in the chaos. He had told himself for years that there was no choice, that the fight was already lost, that staying would have cost more lives than it saved. But standing here, alone, with the wind moving through the trees, none of that reasoning made the guilt any smaller. His pack believed Ivy died that night. He had let them believe it, because the truth felt too heavy to speak out loud. He did not know if she died. He only knew he left. Kael was the Alpha King of the Ashgrove pack, one of the strongest wolf packs in the region, respected and feared in equal measure. But respect and fear were poor company on nights like this. He had never taken another mate. His pack whispered about loyalty and tradition, but only his beta, Raina Cole, seemed to sense there was something else buried beneath his silence. "You come here every year," Raina said, stepping up beside him. She did not ask why. She never did. She simply stood with him, the same quiet presence she had always been. "She should have had a real grave," Kael said. "Not this, not an empty stone." Raina glanced at him. "You still don't know what happened to her." "I know enough." "Do you?" He did not answer. The wind picked up, scattering a few loose leaves across the stone, and after a while, the two of them walked back toward the pack house in silence. Far to the north, past the river that marked the old contested border, another pack had quietly rebuilt itself from almost nothing. The Thornwood pack had once been a proud rival to Ashgrove, but years of decline under an aging alpha named Marrow had left it scattered and weak. Then, 3 years ago, everything changed. A new leader rose within their ranks, someone young, sharp, and unshaken by the failures of the past. Under her guidance, Thornwood rebuilt its numbers, retrained its warriors, and began winning border disputes it had no business winning. They called her the Widow Wolf, though few outside Thornwood had ever seen her face. She kept to herself, spoke little, and led with a kind of calm control that made even seasoned fighters listen carefully when she spoke. Her real name was Ivy. She remembered very little about the night she was left behind. She remembered pain, cold air, and the sound of her own heartbeat pounding in her ears as she dragged herself through fallen branches, trying to put distance between herself and the fighting. She remembered falling, and then nothing, until she woke to the smell of herbs and smoke, and the sight of an old wolf named Marrow, leaning over her, checking her wounds with surprising gentleness for someone who led one of the fiercest packs in the region. He never asked which pack she came from. He never asked why she had been left behind. He simply said, "You're safe here," and that was the beginning of everything Ivy became afterward. She trained harder than anyone expected. She listened more than she spoke. She learned the layout of the land, the patterns of patrols, the old grudges between packs, and the new opportunities hidden inside them. When Marrow's health began to fail, the pack looked to her, not because she demanded it, but because she had quietly become the person everyone already trusted to lead. She never spoke of Ashgrove. She never spoke of Kael. But there were nights when she stood at the edge of Thornwood territory, looking south toward the border she used to call home, and said nothing at all. The dispute that finally brought them face to face began over a stretch of forest neither pack had fully controlled in years, a strip of land rich with game and fresh water, valuable to any pack looking to expand. Ashgrove scouts reported unusual activity near the border, patrols moving with more confidence than expected, boundaries being tested in ways that felt deliberate rather than accidental. Kael called for a formal meeting between the two packs, the kind of meeting that happened only when tension threatened to boil over into something neither side could take back. He expected a difficult negotiation. He expected pride, posturing, perhaps an unfamiliar leader trying to prove strength through bold words. He did not expect Ivy. She walked into the meeting hall wearing the black and silver colors of Thornwood, her posture straight, her expression unreadable, a thin scar visible along one forearm where old wounds had healed imperfectly. For a moment, Kael forgot how to breathe. The room around him blurred, and every carefully rehearsed argument he had prepared disappeared from his mind entirely. "You're alive," he said, before he could stop himself. Ivy met his eyes without flinching. "I am," she said simply. "And I'm here on behalf of Thornwood, not on behalf of anything we used to be." The words landed harder than any blow could have. Around them, both packs' representatives shifted uncomfortably, sensing history neither of them fully understood, but recognizing weight when they saw it. Kael wanted to ask 100 questions at once. How did you survive? Why didn't you come back? Did you think I abandoned you on purpose? Instead, he forced himself to sit, to breathe, to remember that an entire room was watching him, waiting to see whether their Alpha King could hold himself together. Ivy did not give him the chance to fall apart in private. She laid out Thornwood's position clearly, calmly, without a trace of the girl he remembered from years ago, the one who used to laugh easily and trust without question. This version of her measured every word, gave nothing away, and made it clear that she had not come to reminisce. "The land in question has been patrolled by Thornwood for the last 2 seasons," she said. "We have no interest in conflict, but we won't step back from territory we've already secured." "You mean territory you've taken," Kael replied, his voice steadier than he felt. "I mean territory we've earned," she said. "The same way Ashgrove earned everything it has, or have you forgotten how that works?" The meeting stretched on for another hour, filled with careful arguments and colder silences, but nothing was resolved. Both sides agreed to reconvene, though everyone in the room understood that the real conversation had already happened, buried underneath the formal words. That night, Kael could not sleep. He paced the halls of the packhouse, replaying every moment of the meeting, every flicker of expression on Ivy's face that might have told him what she was actually thinking. Raina found him near the window overlooking the training grounds, still awake long past midnight. "She's different," Kael said quietly. "She's alive," Raina said. "That's different enough. She hates me. Maybe. Or maybe she just doesn't trust you yet. Those aren't the same thing." Kael did not answer. He stared out at the darkness, thinking of the years he spent visiting an empty grave, mourning someone who had been alive the entire time, rebuilding herself into someone strong enough to stand across a negotiating table and look at him without breaking. Over the following weeks, tension over the border territory grew sharper. Scouts from both packs crossed paths more frequently, testing limits, watching for weakness. Kael knew that if the dispute escalated further, it could damage both packs badly, weakening them in front of every rival watching from the outside. He requested a private meeting with Ivy, away from formal negotiations, away from watching eyes. She agreed, though her reasons were her own. They met at the edge of the contested forest, the trees tall and quiet around them, the air cool with the coming of autumn. "You didn't have to come," Kael said. "I wanted to see if you'd finally ask the right questions," Ivy replied. He studied her for a long moment. "How did you survive?" "Marrow found me," she said, half dead, barely breathing. "He never asked where I came from. He just helped me. I searched," Kael said. "After the retreat, I sent trackers. I told myself I was doing everything I could." "You searched in the wrong direction," Ivy said. "Thornwood territory was the last place you thought to look, because you assumed I'd never survive long enough to reach it." The words were not shouted. They did not need to be. They landed with quiet precision, each one striking somewhere Kael had spent 3 years trying to protect. "I gave the order to retreat, because I thought staying would get more wolves killed," he said. "I have relived that decision every day since." "I know," Ivy said. "I watched you give the order. I understood why you made it. That's not what hurt the most." "Then what?" "You stopped looking too soon," she said. "You built a grave instead of keeping faith that I might still be out there." Kael had no response strong enough to answer that. The truth of it settled over him like cold air, impossible to argue against, impossible to undo. "I'm not asking you to forgive me," he said finally. "I know that's not something I can demand." "Good," Ivy said, "because I haven't decided if I will." She turned to leave, then paused, glancing back at him one last time. "The land stays with Thornwood," she said. "Not because I want to hurt Ashgrove, because my pack worked for it, the same way I worked to become someone capable of standing here today." Kael nodded slowly, then it settled. "For now," Ivy said, and and disappeared back into the trees. In the weeks that followed, both packs quietly adjusted to a new, uneasy peace. The border dispute resolved without further conflict, each side accepting boundaries that reflected present strength rather than old history. Kael's pack noticed a change in their alpha king. A certain heaviness lifted, replaced by something quieter and more thoughtful. He no longer visited the empty grave alone. Instead, he stood at the edge of Ashgrove territory sometimes, looking north, wondering about the life Ivy had built without him. Ivy, for her part, continued leading Thornwood, with the same steady calm that had earned her the pack's trust. She did not reach out to Kael again, not right away. But she also did not close the door completely. There were evenings when she stood near the river, separating their territories, remembering the person she used to be before the world forced her to become someone stronger. Neither of them spoke of reunion, neither of them spoke of forgiveness. What existed between them now was something quieter, something built on truth instead of old promises, on respect, earned through survival rather than titles inherited through birth. Months later, when another regional matter required leaders from both packs to meet again, Kael and Ivy stood on opposite sides of the same table, just as before. But this time, when their eyes met, there was no shock, no disbelief, only a shared understanding of everything that had happened, and everything that remained unresolved. "You look well," Kael said quietly, before the meeting began. "I am well," Ivy replied. Thornwood made sure of that. "I'm glad," he said, and meant it. For a moment, something almost gentle passed between them, a small crack in the careful distance they had both maintained. Then the meeting began, and they became leaders again, negotiating terms, guarding their pack's interests, moving forward into whatever future waited beyond old wounds and unanswered questions. Neither of them knew exactly where this new balance would lead, but for the first time in 3 years, Kael no longer carried the weight of a grave that never should have existed, and Ivy no longer carried the weight of wondering whether anyone had truly looked for her. What remained between them was neither friendship nor romance, not yet. It was something more fragile and more honest. Two people who had once lost everything, standing now on solid ground, deciding slowly, carefully, whether there was still something worth rebuilding between them.